everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are starting a brand new series today that I have been excited about for a very long time, despite knowing nothing about it, and that is Death Parade. So, I had no clue this series even existed, and then last year I started watching Death Note, and I don't know how far I was into the series, but some people were like, oh, if you like Death Note, you should watch Death Parade. And the only thing I know about it is that there is some reference to Death Note within this series. I don't know what it is. I don't want to know what it is yet, but somebody has told me that there is a reference to Death Note in the series, and I was like, okay, sure. And the only thing I've noticed from the thumbnails is it seems more like Bungo Stray Dogs than it does Death Note, but that's all I know about it. I know nothing about this series. If you are new to my channel, hi, I'm Romania Black. I'm an English teacher, and I like reviewing manga and anime because it's kind of my, guilty pleasure / love of my life. So I love reviewing series and giving them kind of like my teacherly take on them. And so I've been recommended this series for a while now. And I meant to watch it as soon as I was done with Death Note, but then Bungo Stray Dogs, speaking of which, season 4 came along and I decided to watch it in the slot right after that. And then I thought, well, as soon as Bungo Stray Dogs is over, I'm going to watch Death Parade. So again, no clue what this show is about, but these are the kind of things I love. I love being surprised. I love reacting and seeing surprises happen on screen, and I love going into series completely blind, not knowing anything. So, if you are new to the channel, here's my one stipulation. Please don't spoil me. That's all I ask. No spoilers. Don't let me know what episodes I need to look forward to. I like going in blind. I've got a whole thing on Patreon and a whole thing on my community post to talk about spoilers and what to avoid and what not to say and what to say. But I do like reading your comments and replying to them. So if you want to talk about just the episode itself, absolutely would love to talk to you all about it. So I'm super excited, y'all. I have no idea what to expect with this, but I do know that I have some headphones hooked up. We are doing some different things with reactions for a new series, so there will be some subtitles listed probably so y'all can follow along and see where I'm at with that and kind of just go along with it. But trying to be, I feel like my work is transformative enough because it's discussion based and we use the visuals as part of the discussion and things like that, but just trying to be respectful of the climate and as we progress and move forward and as I progress and move forward as a reactor. So that's kind of why this is the way that it is, but hopefully you all can be on board with it as well. So we'll see, right? We'll see. So I'm going to hopefully have the subtitles along with a timer so you can follow along and keep up that way. But yeah, I'm pretty excited, y'all. So again, no clue what to expect. We'll tackle it as we go and just see what all I'm in for. So there's 12 episodes and there's an OVA Death Billiards that I polled Patreon and Patreon told me I should watch it in between episodes 6 and 7. So that's when we'll watch it if you're curious. But with that being said, we are going to start a Death Parade and see what happens. So I hope y'all enjoy the ride, but we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So, oh my gosh. So, wow, okay. I debated bringing Whiteboard Kun out, but it's not quite time. I think I can manage without him for this episode, but what a premise! What a very cool premise. I have a feeling I'm really gonna like this because we have our bartender, our keeper of limbo, as it were, the gatekeeper of limbo between heaven and hell, and where it is decided you will go. Oh, and what's gonna be interesting about this is how the games are played and what the rules end up being and how it goes, because the rules seem quite the rule with the dart game seemed very much like are we gonna be the selfless person and sacrifice ourselves, and the person who sacrifices themselves to, for the greater good to save the other person, they're gonna get to go to heaven. You're gonna die, but you're gonna get to go to heaven, and the winner, even the winner who's selfish and wants to take the win away from the other person, is going to be the one to go to the void or hell. But this episode was so interesting. Not only I love the concept I love the red carpet leading down into the bar. Like it felt very Shining. It felt like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, the adaptation of the Stephen King novel. It just had like, if you've ever watched The Shining, that movie, there's a scene where Jack goes into the bar and it's like hell. And it's just like, there's all the demons and ghosts in the bar and it's very, very creepy. And this felt just like it. It just had that really like ominous vibe. But what's interesting is that a lot of it is just to put that fear in the person of what could possibly happen. Because, yeah, I like the bartender's like, I can't tell you what's going to happen. I can't tell you what the outcome's going to mean, what it's going to be. There's just going to be this game we play and your lives are at stake. But they're already dead. So it's like, and then what if you don't play? I guess, we need to go through this. I guess we need to go through this episode and see. But, so crazy. I love the idea that we start out the episode with the two coming down through the elevator. Like, I got instant Beetlejuice vibes. Like, in Beetlejuice, the couple, they go off the bridge and they die and then they end up stuck in their house and they're ghosts. So, yeah, the two of them arriving, like, at the bottom of the elevator. And what's interesting is when they get off the elevator, he has the demon head above it, and she has the more angelic head above her, right? And when you find out why they died, because he was jealous and thought she was cheating on him, and he was trying to get the phone away from her, and that made him skied off the road and caused them to die, it does paint him in a very negative light. Like, it's his fault because of his jealousy that they died, and she was the one that was innocent in that case. So when they come down off the elevator, it makes sense how they arrive, but when they leave, it's rather different. So, and of course they don't remember anything, and then they end up going down, like, what do? They end up going, like, they look down the hallway and follow, like, the red carpet and everything, and yeah, there's the two elevator, like, the Met. It's very Spirited Away. It's very Shining. It's very creepy. Like, they follow, like, the bamboo and stuff. It's very pretty. It looks very fancy. And then there is the bar. The bar. They says, come on in! Like, come on in. Well, have a drink before you like, play for your afterlife, right? Yeah, he says, this is Kiendism. Interesting. Yeah, I love the design. It looks like something that's from Bungo Stray Dogs. It does. I love it. And then we have this OP. I don't want to read too much into the OP, although I will note the girl with the silvery hair, much like him, has like the cross eyes, like the power eyes, and then the other girl does not. So I'm curious why she's there. Why is she there? But yeah, all these games and stuff, like what the heck? And there's these other characters there. Why do they end up getting to be at the bar, but these other people have to play the game and leave? That's going to be interesting to find out. Like, what makes them? Are they angels? Are they, like, is this their punishment that they're doomed to stay in limbo forever and that's just their task? Are they angels that have been sent here to, like, perform this duty of these games? Like, what's the point, right? Why are things the way that they are? I'm very curious about the world building that we will hopefully get through this. But yeah, and notice they get water, like, right? They get water. They don't even get booze in the afterlife. They get stuck with water, right? And he asks, do you remember anything just before you came here? Do you remember what happened to you? And he says, no, I don't remember. He's like, I think that we were on our honeymoon trip. Okay, so they had just got married, yeah. And you notice, like, looking back, he seems kind of sullen in the flashback, but you don't know it at the time because you're not thinking about it. You're like, oh, okay, honeymoon trip, cool. And she said, you're right. Yeah, I remember that much as well, but they don't remember anything else. And he says, okay, good. You don't remember how you got here or what caused your deaths. Great. That will probably be good. Because they kind of go in with a blank slate and then it all unravels from here. And he says, I'm about to explain to you what your circumstances are, but he doesn't tell them that they're dead, right? He says, I ask that you pay very close attention. So he says, I cannot answer the question about where you are. Meaning he can't answer the question until the game's over, right? That you're in between heaven and hell. We will have you play a game. And there's this big chandelier, all of this. He's like, why are we playing a game? We just got here. And then we will have you choose a type of game by roulette. And there's this like Slytherin board with 9 options, right? Well, there's 12 episodes in this series plus an OVA. So there's possibly 9 different ways people die. And then like 4 episodes of or 3 episodes of something else happening. We'll see. We'll see. 3 episodes of lore otherwise. We'll have you stake your lives on the game. And he looks like Gojo's slightly emo cousin, right? But he's so fascinating. I'm very curious. Until the game is over, you cannot leave this bar. Interesting. And then he's like, let's have nothing to do with this weirdo. And they try to walk around. And he's just like, okay. he's like, I'm just trying to do my job. And then, yeah, at least there's a bathroom in Limbo, right? At least there's a bathroom here they can use. That's all. That's good to know. But yeah, he says, why are we playing your game? And he says, I would not recommend that you don't play the game. And so then we like have the bar opens up and he like just calmly walks to the back. And there's all these bodies that are just strung up like mannequins, right? And there were mannequins in the OP. So maybe one of those people there like, but that's so curious because there's mannequins strung up. But then when someone loses the game, they like get strung on all these strings and they're like put back in the elevator and they're sent to be reincarnated. So, so curious. So I don't want to know any answers yet. I want to be surprised as we go and as we learn things, but that's fascinating. And I almost wonder if the mannequins and stuff are to throw people off. Like they're just there to make you more paranoid and make you think like they're there to deter you being like, you have to play the game or you'll end up like this. I'm curious if we'll have an episode where someone does end up like the mannequins or something happens. Very curious. Or if he's like, if you don't play the game, you're going to end up as an indentured servant here and you don't get paid. So you're going to be stuck making others kill each other. So he says, all that I can say to you is that we would like you to stake your lives and play the game. He's like, please don't make us hire more people to work here. We don't have benefits. It's pretty crowded. Interesting. He's like, what is the deal with this guy? And he's like, I'm just doing my job. But if I could have you press this button, the roulette will start. I like it's just like the most simple button, right? And the game will be chosen. But he's like, let's just do what he says for now. Well, there's no telling what he might do if we go against him. I mean, yeah. And they press the button. So darts! I would suck at that game. Darts are the first game that we play. The animation, though, like creating the stage of the dart game, like the animation kicks into high gear. I was really impressed with the style and how this is animated. It's very creepy, but it's so interesting. I'm like, what? I really like the animation style that does. And then they have 501 points, which, okay, let's just do the math real quick. If we can do the math, there was 501 points divided by 7. There's no way someone would have gotten that, right? Because that means you would have gotten to get 71 points at a time and hit the heart like every single time, right? Like there was no way that was going to be a thing, right? The rules are simple, that you throw the darts by turn. You have 7 darts each, like 7 deadly sins, all of this, right? And then the body parts. So there are like, there's butts. There's butts on there. Butts, legs, arms, eyes, hands. And then the heart is in the center. They're linked to your nerves. Oh, that would be absolutely insane, right? I love that. I love the detail of it. It's so gory. He's like, what was that? He's like, linked to the nerves. And so, yeah, he's like, oh, well, if it comes to it, we'll do something. So it's crazy to see that when their lives are put at stake against one another, like how easily things unravel and get crazy. Like, I assume, and the bartender, or Decim, he says later, he's like, most of the time it's just 2 random strangers that show up at the same time. It's just bad happenstance. You 2 happen to die at the same time. That's why you showed up. So, because I was wondering, I'm like, what if you have couples come all the time and they have to face each other? Like, what do you do with that? But, I mean, usually the odds are most couples don't die at the same time. So there's a very good chance that that would never happen, right? This is just one of those weird circumstances where they happen to die at the same time and they show up together. What the heck? Yeah, but that's still insane, right? That this game is designed to tear people apart, right? And we had the flash, the 7 death, 7 darts, episode 1. Oh my gosh. And so, yeah, the nerves are linked to actually hearing. But okay, so the guy establishes he's a doctor. He's like, there, you don't actually, although she spits out blood at some point. So even though the nerves are hit, it does end up causing like physical damage, right? And so, yeah, the dart hits and they realize that the pain, that it's real. And I love the animation, like the shadows on him. And I like that the guy's like, look, I can't tell you anything except to play the game. What is this pain? He says, I said up front, this is a game with your lives at stake. If you wish to avoid pain, you do not have to hit the target. If you miss with all of your darts, the game will soon be over. But you will be the loser. He said, however, Miss Machiko will end up being the winner. So it's like, it's playing on your pride. Like, it's playing on the idea that, yeah, if you choose the good ending where you don't suffer, if you choose to like lose the game for the other person, you won't suffer and you'll die, but you'll be reincarnated. But it's like there's that human pride at stake. And we've been conditioned as humans to believe that we have to be the winners, that being the winners is the good thing. Whereas, it's like so many things, like a lot of people that are wealthy, a lot of people that have been successful, they're not necessarily good people. And being successful and the winner all the time, that doesn't make your soul good, right? But that's so what's fascinating is the game an accurate representation of the person playing it? That's the crazy thing, because he ends up going to heaven and she ends up going to the void. So this whole thing was a big back and forth, and it makes you question, like, it starts to break down the psyche of humanity and these people, and being like, okay, well, he on the surface is like, oh, I'll protect you, it'll be fine. But then when he realizes I could possibly lose this game and might lose my life, even though you realize later they're both already dead, but they don't necessarily know that. It's like, is he a good person? Because he starts to like play the game even more. But then you wonder about her, because she says, if we do, you'll lose, honey. Like she acknowledges it. So at first you think, okay, well, she's not trying to win because she's, calling it out. And he's like, we just have to, he's like, I still have Machiko, so we're fine. Right? And at first everything seems like, okay, well, then they'll just make each other lose. But he thinks of himself hanging in that pit of bodies, and that gets to him. That makes him think he doesn't want to. It's like human nature. You don't want to end up in that situation. So are you willing to sacrifice the other person so that you don't end up in that situation? Are you willing to do that? Are you going to be selfish and put yourself over the other? Right? And then when she says, he goes for the dart, and I like that moment, like the bartender looks and he's like, And he's like, okay. And he goes to throw it. And when he throws it, it's almost like he's expecting something bad to happen. Like he starts to move like he's expecting something's going to happen. Because he says, my hand slipped. And she says, it's all right. And like the blood going over her wedding ring, like there's that symbolism of like, of like he basically put himself over them, this person that he supposedly loves. Oh. And I like that the bartender, Decim, seems to know that like things are unraveling. Like he seems to get it, right? And then she slips. She does cough and slip, right? I do think she did not mean to slip and hit his eye, right? I don't think that was intentional, right? I feel like that she didn't mean that. So, but here's the thing. He doesn't think that it's that. He says, in doubles of all places, like it's her fault, right? And it's her eyes. And then when he goes to get the other dart, it's the idea that you don't exactly know at this point, is she telling the truth about being pregnant? Like we know later, based on her flashbacks, yeah, she was pregnant. But when she says it at first, it makes you question, because you're like, well, is she just saying that so that he won't throw the dart? I was expecting a heel turn. I was expecting her to be like, oh, I'm pregnant, don't do this. And then for her to be like, ha, I won. Like at the very end, for them to just devolve. And it kind of does. But it makes you wonder, like, was she actually pregnant? And she's like, not in the belly. And then he questions why. And she said, your child. And so he's like, really? And the whole time, like the bartender is like just picking up the stuff and not saying anything, right? And she says yes. And you wonder if she's lying or not, because he just kind of stops and looks. And so then he remembers like she's not happy, like with him beside her. And she's like, she's not drinking coffee, she's drinking the water. And she has the water beside her in bed. And he's like, what's the deal? You've been out of sorts. Yeah. How many weeks? And she says it's been 10. So there's the question the whole time, did she cheat on him or not? And so did she cheat on him? Did she not cheat on him? Is she pregnant? I think that she is pregnant with his child. I do think she was pregnant with his child. I do think that. But was she cheating on him? But then that would call the question, was it his child or not? Because I think I want to go back and look at the montage of everything at the end there and see if there's any clues to that. Because I mean, she could be out of sorts because she's pregnant, or she could be out of sorts because she's not happy with the marriage that they just got in, or she could be mad and upset because she cheated on him. We don't know enough yet at this point in the episode to really be able to determine. He's like, why didn't you say anything? And she said, I wanted you to surprise you on the trip. I haven't told anyone yet. I wanted you to be the first to know. And he's like, oh, yeah, really? And she's like, yeah. And then he's like, oh, you should avoid me. I'm like, well, they're both dead. They're all dead. And the bartender, again, he just looks sad this whole time. Like, he knows that they're all dead and there's no point to this. Like, the crazy thing is, if she is pregnant, then it's like, the baby's going to hell too! What? Oh my God. Like, maybe he's just like, ugh, this is not good. Like, he says, at last I'm going to be a father. Well, not really. But then he like aims, he shoots at it, and then he thinks back to the girl, and it hits the intestine thing. Yeah, he fires it, and he thought about it for a second. I love the graphic 7 darts, death parade. So he thinks about that they were talking about Machi, the girl, and how she's a smooth operator and dating a doctor, right? And saying she's jealous. But the girl says later, she's like, no, Machi is the nickname for our friend that was there. Machi was the nickname of our friend. It wasn't me. That was somebody else that just happened to have a similar name. Is she telling the truth? Is she not telling the truth there? I feel like she is telling the truth, yeah. Because I don't think she's acting at this part here. She's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, my wife's saying it fair. And she's like, I don't know what you're saying. And she's like, you're wrong. Even though he says that he's tried to pretend not to hear them. And he says, I was so in love with you. And she's like, but I love you. You've got it wrong. And she says she's not lying. And I do believe her. I don't know. I kind of believe her. I think at the end, what she says to him is a lie itself. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. But he's like, there's a rule that you haven't told us, isn't there? And she's like, that dart's not yours. But when the rules were explained, the targets were never specified. Is that so? And he says, yes, that's correct. As long as it hits a target, the points are scored. So you could use all the darts on one, technically, and nobody's going to stop you. Yeah. So they've been just taking turns and being polite, but that's not the way that the game's really been described. So really, that's where 7 darts were never enough. Yeah, that's why the 500 points are there. Like, you would never normally get 500 points with the 7 darts alone. But if you took the other person's darts, maybe you could. Okay, that makes sense. And he's like, no, that is the final dart. That's all you get. Whoever's board is scored on will be the winner. What happens if you lose the game? He says, I can't answer that. Because, yeah, that would destroy the game. If he tells you that one of you is going to heaven and one of you is going to hell before the game's over, then that's going to change the way that you play the game. And that's not how it's supposed to be. And so he says, why don't we play to win, Machi the taste of defeat? And that's when she's like, don't you remember my friend that said she hated her name? And like, all of this is that she dated a doctor too. And granted, you know, it is a kind of sketchy story. Like, how many friends do you know that have both married doctors? Are there 2 people in your friend circle who have both married doctors? If there are, you're living some pretty bougie lives. No, but I mean, it's very rare that two high school friends are both now married to doctors and come to the same wedding. I mean, it's not unheard of. Can't say it never happened, but it's not common. So I could kind of get why he'd be a little bit skeptical that, oh, you mean your friend from school who happens to have the same last name as you, who happens to have the same first name as you, that also married a doctor is the one the girls were talking about having an affair. It wasn't you. It was your friend who has the same name as you who's married to a doctor as well. Gotcha. So, yeah. I mean, I could see why he would be hesitant to believe her, but I kind of believed her. I figured she was telling the truth at this point. And then she really does play to win, but it's just those doubts. She's like, I never lied to you from the start. I love that there's somebody playing the piano in the back. That's great. Like, just adding the ambiance. And then he says, wait a minute. And he's like tagging her with, I love it. She's like, I'm tagging her with the dart. And then she goes, I'll show you. But she was going to aim to the outside. So the crazy thing is she was going to lose. She was going to aim to the outside, it looked like, and into the game so that he would win, right? And he changed the trajectory, which made it hit the heart, which made him be the loser. Huh. And then, yeah, they met. Then she talked to him. And it shows, like, when she sees them, everything looks happy. And then them seeing each other. Like, it's all from her perspective, right? Yeah, this is all from her perspective. She sees the two lines. Yeah, it's all from her perspective. That she was happy with him. And then that was it. But the dart flies out and hits the board with him on it. Oh. And that's it. And he doesn't die from getting hit with the dart. And I just thought that he just was, okay, cool, the game's over. Like, how many times has Decim played this game? How many times has this happened? What? And he says, Miss Machiko is the winner. The game is at an end. Both of you please move over this way. Like, time to go to the elevators. Bye. What the fudge? And then he says, one more, but there's no more left. And it's like you've used up all the darts. She's like, none of this is any use now. And then that's when she realizes that they're dead. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I'm like, he didn't realize it. And he's like, yes. Yep, the two of you already passed on. Glad you figured that out. You people are sent to either heaven or to hell. And the quindecim exists for the purpose of that ruling. Like, it's the balance. There's like the little helix, and then one side is black and one side's white. I love it. It's like our little Slytherin thing. There's also the provision that only those pairs who die at the same moment are invited to come here. So, cool. So, there's just pairs of people that die in the same moment. So, if you're just some rando that dies by yourself, you're not going to come here. You're only going to limbo if you die in pairs. Interesting. I'm terribly... He's like, I'm sorry for not telling you earlier. Just had to keep it, closed-lipped until you guys played the game. And then it sees them cutting the cake. And so then there's a thing where God, and the crazy thing is, from her flashback, I don't think she cheated on him. Because from her flashback, she was happy with their marriage. And everything was fine. And he was the one that during their wedding was suspicious of her because he looks over at her. And then while she's on her phone, he's curled up and he's like, he thinks that she's texting someone and is jealous of her. And then she's on her phone. He's like, well, why don't you answer it? And she's like, oh, I don't feel like talking. And then he tries to take the phone from her. So it's like he's jealous and has all these bad things, all these bad negative thoughts around him when she didn't. And it's his fault they died. But he's the one that gets to go to heaven because he lost the game. Huh. I love that. I love him backing up against the dark board, asking how did this happen? And he's like, I just wanted to start a happy family. I just wanted to protect us. Oh. He's like, I killed my own child. Technically, yes, you did. Oh my gosh, nope. And then when he's like begging, he's like, aren't you God? And he's like, no, I'm an arbiter. I'm just literally, he's like, do you think God would be in this shaggy bar? Like, what do you think? He's like, no, he's like, you think God would be playing darts with y'all right now? No. I'm literally just an angel that's just doing this unfortunate job of watching y'all fall apart. Crazy. I feel bad for Decim. He has to sit there. He's like, no way something this crazy could happen. Well, you know, God's kind of creative. And then he calls her transparent. And she's like, act. And he says it's not his child. And she's like, well, then whose child do you think it is? And he says it's someone else's. Of course. And she's like, Takashi. And he just like, he almost looks monstrous in that moment, right? He doesn't look anything like the person that she met. And like, he's just completely driven insane. Because I thought he was going to hell at this point. I'm like, oh, well, he's going to hell. And it's why he looks monstrous and just in like so much pain. And she's just like, really? And maybe, because she turns to leave. She turns to leave for the elevator. Like she's giving up on him. Like she's just like, this is not the man that I loved. But then she stops, right? And she steals herself. Like she doesn't look, she looks like she's stealing herself, right? Almost. The funny thing is, it's almost like she thinks, okay, he's lost the game. She thinks maybe he's going to hell. So maybe I'll lie and make him feel better and make him feel like I'm the bad one so that he doesn't think that it's, how does that scene go? Because she like steals herself and then she like says, you're right about that. And then I feel like she's like, there's someone else I love. So, okay. So we do see, she says there's someone else I love, and we see this other guy that's smoking on the phone. So was she cheating the whole time? Was it someone else's kid? What? Was it really? Because, yeah, there's a guy in bed with her, and she's, like, curled up against the pillow, and he's smoking with his phone out, and that's not him. So was there someone else? Did she cheat on him? And that's why she's going to hell? I mean, well, here's the thing. We'll talk about the going to hell bit. But, yeah, she says was there someone else that she was cheating on? Or did she make a mistake and was just like, okay, we'll just roll with it? I like that Decim's like, what are we doing? What is this plot twist? She's like, who do you think would ever fall in love with you? And maybe, she's like, what are you, brain damaged? She's like, obviously I was after your money. And he says, were you really making all of it up? She says, of course it was all a lie. I mean, your child. And that's when he grabs the darts to go after her. So but in the scene where she's in bed and the man's smoking, she doesn't look like she's okay with what she's done. It looks like she made like a terrible mistake and then regretted it. Like she made a mistake and cheated on him and then didn't feel great about it either. So I mean, was it his child or not? We don't know. Was it the man she had an affair on? We don't know. But it seems like she did have an affair. Whether or not it was before or after they were married, we don't know. But it seems like she did have an affair. We don't know if the kid is the man that has the affair or not, or if it's Takashi's child or not. But it seems like she did have an affair. She regretted it. And then maybe she was trying to like just be like, well, maybe I'm married to him now. We'll just let it go. Bygones be bygones. And then it's just in this moment when he's calling her out, she just couldn't take it anymore and she admitted it. It's like a big old psychological like experiment to see these people like fall apart and reveal like their dirtiest sides of themselves, right? And so she trips. I like that that's when Decim's like, okay, whoa, the game's over. And he uses the strings to stop him and pulls him back, saying, what is this? He says, the game is already over. And he says that doesn't matter now. And he says to let him out, he's like, I'm terribly sorry, but the ruling has already been decided. And he says, let me hit her. And it almost seems like Decim's like, I kind of don't blame you, dude, for wanting to hit her, but the game's over. It's already been decided. Sorry. And he says, I'm sorry. And then it's almost like it just snaps him and just stops him. And then all of like his tears and saliva fall into her face. Oh my God. And then he gets like pulled up and given back to Decim. He says, well, let's be off. Just another day in the neighborhood. Just another day of doing this. No worries here. Oh my gosh. And there's like the little jellyfish. He says, off you go. And so she stands in the elevator and he's propped up with the strings. Now, I feel like the strings are not necessary for you to go to heaven. I feel like he only did that because the man was kind of like about to attack her, and that's not the rules of the place. So I don't feel like having the strings on you is a requirement to go into the heaven elevator. But it just, in this case, it was because he was out of hand. And then he just bows and lets them go. And we see him like just strung up, passed out, and we see her just like miserable. And that's it. And we see the two elevators go off. Crazy talk. Crazy talk. And then we see like the end credits have the pictures of them at their wedding and everything. It's crazy. And then there's like a little plate with a card on it. There's him and her. And the picture of them together. And then I was almost about to stop because I thought it was a preview, but it was an after credit scene. And then he goes back and they're like, nice job. And we see this girl that looks like a little version of him with the suspenders. And this girl looks like Lydia, speaking of Beetlejuice, with like the white streak in her hair. Interesting. And he said, what do you think? She has a white streak. I wonder if she has been like hired to work there now because the girl has the white streaks in her hair. I wonder if this woman here is going to end up becoming like them, and her hair will slowly get more and more white the longer she's there, and she becomes like one of them. I'm curious. She says, it was awful. And she's like, oh, you'll get used to it. Yeah, I wonder if her hair is going to keep turning whiter as the series goes on. Where did them go? Takashi's soul was sent for reincarnation, and Machiko's was sent into the void. He says, yes. She says, there's something I'd like you to tell me. And he seems kind of like why is he put off by that? And then that's all we get. And then we get a preview after that. So, I'm curious to get like more lore about this crew and how you get to be there and how that goes and all of that. But Decim, I don't know who the black-haired lady is, but I get the impression that maybe Decim, does he like anybody? I don't know. Maybe he'll like her. Who knows? We'll see. I think that what's so fascinating about this show is that both of the characters, Machiko and Takashi, they both were very flawed in their own ways. And you could argue either way who deserved to go to heaven and who deserved to go to hell. But at the end of the day, their characters wasn't what was the determining factor. It was, did you lose the game or did you win the game? If you won the game, you went to the void. It was like your last hurrah before you go into the vastness of hell. And if you lost the game, you suffered pain, but then you get reincarnation. So it's like you kind of get the Phoenix moment if you lose the game. You're going to burn up, but then you're going to rise from the ashes. Versus if you win, you don't get that right. That's fascinating. That's so fascinating. And I wonder if if people in the game are going to figure out the rules, if they're going to figure out the rules and if they're going to try to turn the game against itself, what they're going to do. So interesting, y'all. But I have questions. I want to know more about Decim. I want to know more about why there are people other than Decim working in the limbo. Like, it makes sense for there to be this heavenly limbo and for there to be somebody that's managing everything. Makes sense. But I want to know why the others are there. What's the deal? Why does she not have the cross eyes like the girl and he does? I have so many questions and I need answers. So I'm really excited about this series and to see what's going to happen next, y'all. I can't wait. So I guess we'll just have to find out, won't we? But I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below, what you all thought of this, but I'm excited, y'all. I hope y'all are too, but I also hope you have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with episode 2 of Death Parade. Bye.